Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about Telefone, the album. I guess No Name in general, although I've only heard Telefone, so that limits what I can discuss. But it sounds like too we're gonna get into music and lyrics, and I hopefully you've got a good grasp on some of her lyrics because I found her music to be pretty cryptic in ways in terms
Yeah.
of lyrics. So go ahead, man, kick us off.
And no, I kind of feel the same way with your lyrics. It's just uh more so I feel like I can kind of get a sense of it and it's more kind of like a feeling rather than sitting and like deciphering the words for exactly what they are, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Because I know people from like Chicago and I know people from like Midwestern cities and stuff. And there is a kind of like a lot they appear like very happy and fun and my friends like to dance and sing and have fun and go out and then later in the same day they're making a post on Instagram about the friend that they lost to gun violence a couple years ago or something.
yeah, that's kind of
Like
wild.
I know a lot of people like that. I'm just like, man, it's like I feel like I've come from a place of privilege, just not having to go live that life. I grew up in a kind of Midwest rural town, which there's of course a lot of problems there, but I was my friends weren't dying.
Right.
It just I didn't have to be afraid of gang violence or police or anything like really like that. And it's like I can't imagine having to lose people close to you so young as a lot of the people that I know from these areas. And you kind of, like I said, I kind of get that same attitude from listening to people like No Name and Chance the Rapper and stuff, where they're like, their music sounds very cheery
Yeah.
and happy, but then you like really read into it and you're like, oh my god, it's just dark and sad and you know.
Well, and even with just the album cover was pretty striking in the style
Mm-hmm.
of it's kind of a cartoon and it's pastel,
Yeah,
almost pastel colors, and it's okay, it's kind of pretty and cute, whatever. And she's got a skull sitting on the top of her head, like death
right,
is always
right.
on her mind,
Mm-hmm.
and that's yeah, I don't know. I almost wonder if it's some sort of PTSD, like you treat it in a
Yeah,
way that's like happy and pleasant because it's so constant and unbearable otherwise. Like it's a coping
like a
mechanism somehow.
yeah. I just want to say about the album cover though, real quick, is there was actually so I've been listening to No Name for a long time before Telephone was ever out, and kind of people honestly didn't think she was going to release an album because she had announced it and pushed it back so many times,
Oh,
and she was posting stuff on SoundCloud and deleting it, and that's actually I'd suggest digging into that because she's got like probably 10, 20 songs that she released before the album that never made it to anything that she would post and then leave up for maybe some of them a couple years, some of them like a month, and then they were just gone.
huh.
You can find them on YouTube. But there was an album cover that she had that was that was originally announced to be for Telephone, and it might be the same artist. It kind of has that same kind of paint, kind of childlike kind of look to it, of a girl, presumably her in like a telephone booth, and I think there's like a street light, and there's like a city behind it, and it looks kind of like run down area, but it's just like of this little girl in a telephone booth, and it's kind of I feel like a darker vibe than the one that we did get,
Yeah.
but
Even that is pretty
yeah,
dark too.
I guess she ended up scrapping that and then gotten the album cover that was used for it, but
Huh.
uh, yeah, I thought that was an interesting. I think maybe initially the album was supposed to be more direct with those messages or something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's pretty direct with Casket Pretty and stuff like that. Like
Oh
Casket
yeah,
Pretty is Jesus. That is
it's just because yeah, when I first like was listening to that music, it never. I guess that one kind of hit me, but I never really listened too closely to it until when I was in college. I was an architecture student, and I would be in the studio very very late.
yeah.
I'd be walking through campus at 4 in the morning, and it'd just be like fog rolling through, and I'd have listening to that album, and I feel like those times are when the messages and stuff in the album like really hit me, you know,
Yeah.
because I guess that was a point where I wasn't very I guess I wasn't very happy being out every day till 4 in the morning and then going to class at 8.
Yeah, well,
I'd
when
just be
you're
walking, listen to it, and be like, oh my God.
yeah, when it's dark and it's late and you're tired, yeah, it's easy to slip into those emotions for sure, man. I mean, that's a hell of a grind to deal with, but yeah, it I don't know. I still struggle with just the pairing of the sound because it is like you're saying, it's so light and it's pretty and it's easy to listen to, and it's like great study music. I feel like because it's just it kind of like gets all of your neurons firing a little bit with all these different sounds. But then when you drop into the lyrics, it's like the underworld, you know. It's like you've got the overworld where it's light and pretty, and then you've got all the dark underground ugliness that exists there.
Yeah, because there was that line. I can't. I feel I'm not remembering exactly what song it was on, but it was on one where a Shadow Man, where she's talking about her granny was like, I was a slave for this, for you to not talk about these issues, you know.
Yeah.
If you listen to most of her previous like songs prior to the release of Telephone, a lot of them were just that, like very happy, bubbly songs about, you know, a guy that she likes, or her going, you know, hanging out with her friends, or, you know, food she likes, whatever. But then there were a couple songs that were a little more like, you know, a little more like deeper than that. And like I remember there's like a line in one of her songs about Trayvon Martin. And, but no, a lot of them were kind of like sunnier like that. I do think that's, you know, I do think that line in that song is kind of criticizing her old music in a way. And maybe that's why she decided to delete that music, is because she's like, this doesn't mean anything, you know?
Right. That's a good point. I didn't even.
Not that they're bad songs. I do love a lot of those older songs that she has. They're just great to listen to, but
yeah,
it's just kind of what I think about that.
That makes sense. I mean, it's got to be an extremely difficult situation to be in where you feel, because it's just gotta split your creativity and your mind, because on one hand, you know, every artist has a desire to create a certain song or a certain sound or whatever, so you're just gonna naturally gravitate in that direction. But then you've got things like social issues that people feel like you're supposed to speak out on. You've got family members saying you have to talk about this, represent that. And in a way, it's, you have to almost make a conscious decision of, okay, am I going to be an entertainer, or am I going to be almost an activist, really?
Yeah.
And that's got to be a hard line to try and balance. And so I wonder if she just said, screw it, I'm not going to try and balance it. I'll just jump into this category and exist there.
In a way that kind of makes me think of, like, Hey Ya, Outkast.
Oh, right.
Where he says, y'all don't want to hear me, you just want to dance.
Right.
And that's how NoName, in a way, she's kind of expressed those similar frustrations, where, like, I get, people were kind of mad at her about this, but she was expressing frustrations about most of her concerts being mostly white crowds.
Yeah.
Where she was like, I feel like she felt that her message was not reaching the people that she wanted it to, and that people weren't listening to the messages that she was trying to, like, to put out in her music. And for a while, that's why I feel like she's, well, not, I don't feel like, because she's kind of expressed this, but she's retired many times.
Yeah.
And said, I'm not making music anymore. I'm not performing anymore. And he's like, okay, I'll make another album. And then recently, I think it's the longest, like, retirement. And then she just is like, actually, I'm going to make music again, And it's like, I think it's just, there's kind of a balance that she's trying to find. I mean, she doesn't want people to just, like, a bunch of people maybe that she believes aren't doing anything to help these issues that she's trying to talk about, or just listening to her music and not taking anything from it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anything about her, like, I don't know if you know much about her outside of the album you listen to, but she's like a huge activist. Like, she's very active in, like, she has a book club where she's trying to teach people about social issues.
I heard about the book club a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, like, she's been more focused on that than music, but yeah, I think that would be hard if you're someone who's trying to spread a message and you know that your audience just isn't hearing it, Maybe a portion of your audience is, but when people are maybe going on, it's like, oh, her music is so cute and so pretty and so bubbly.
Right.
That's all they have to say about it. I've heard that, people talking about her music saying that all the time. I'm like, I mean, it is, but that's not all it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it is a weird, it's almost like a paradox of, especially if you have a grandmother telling you you have to sing about the black struggle and black issues and things like that, and then you do that and white people show up and you go, well, maybe, but I mean, on the outside, for me, it seems like that would be a victory, right? Because I have to assume that black people are aware of the black struggle. So you would want to spread that awareness beyond that boundary into other social, cultural circles. So, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not her. I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
It does sound like, though, just based off of what you've said and her constantly retiring and what have you.
Cats are just...
That's fine. Yeah, don't worry about it. That it does sound like she's just torn. Like she wants to do different things. I kind of get the impression, based off of basically nothing, just what we've been talking about. It seems like she's using music to pay the bills, which by all means, pay the bills, make some money off of music if you can. That's great, and then keep pushing what you're trying to do on the side, on your, you know. I don't want to say on the side because I don't want to make it sound like that's secondary to music, but that's got to be a tough spot. I mean, I've seen interviews with musicians that are struggling, or with anybody who's creating, because it's always portrayed in such a positive way. Oh wow, you can make money from doing the thing that you love and all this other stuff, but it also becomes your trap. Like if that's what you do, that's what you have to do, and so it becomes harder to do it out of love when it's a requirement.
I honestly could see, it's like I don't think that NoName doesn't like making music necessarily. But I really think that she just loves writing mostly, because I remember I was trying to, like years ago, I was trying to track down some songs that nobody could find. I don't think we ever found them. But there were some songs that were put in her SoundCloud and then deleted, and then no one had a backup of them. And I don't think that they've ever been found. But I went on her Facebook. I found her personal Facebook because I was trying to track this stuff down. And she just has all these videos of her when she was younger, performing like slam poetry. You know, it wasn't like a musical thing. It was just more like, I think the writing is what she's been more passionate about.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you are, someone in Chicago, maybe impoverished person in Chicago, and maybe know people like Chance the Rapper, and have friends like that, and you want to put a message out or make poetry, like, you're gonna rap.
Right.
It's sort of the best way to get your art out. But honestly, now that people like know who she is, I could see her actually retiring from music at some point and just going into being a full-time writer. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, once you get the audience, if they follow you, then yeah, you can keep doing that kind of thing. But I wonder, I don't know anything about making music and how much money comes with it, but I wonder if it's just like, man, when I release an album, here's a paycheck, but you do writing, it seems like it's just a lot harder to make good money while writing. Like you really, really have to hit big.
Oh yeah. Yeah, writing. I feel like I don't sorry.
No, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
But no, I feel like who anymore gets to where they are just by writing,
right?
Except for maybe ghostwriters, like in the industry, and they're not exactly people writing stuff that's very complex or anything,
Yeah, I mean, there is the whole like independently published scene that's going on now with ebooks and stuff like that. So that's got a pretty good sized market from what I understand.
Yeah.
But just in general, like when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go to school to be a writer," I'm like, well, I mean, good luck. I hope it works out.
Oh yeah,
but good luck.
There are some like celebrities or like known people who I get a feeling that the reason that they're doing what they're doing is because they want to write in some capacity. And it's like they're not going to get to that because I wish I could think of an example, but there's some people who got into acting because they're like, I got into acting because I want to write screenplays.
Oh, sure.
And that puts me in the industry, and then they can kind of pull back from that and then just do that. And, and then in terms of writing, if we're talking about like hip hop, like there's people like Ka. I don't know if you heard of him.
I've heard of him. I haven't listened to his music yet, though.
He's just incredible. If I'm being honest, I have a hard time. If I have a hard time just like sitting and listening to it, it's not like it's bad. It's like it's good music, but it kind of just fades into the background.
Oh.
But if you sit there and you follow along and read the lyrics, it's like this guy's a genius, you know. And he found an audience, and like I think he's doing well for himself, but he's not making he's not casting his net wide to get out further, you know, any bigger than he is really. And then I feel like people like NoName are kind of hitting a better balance, where there are a lot of people who want to listen to her for a message, and then there are a lot of people who want to just listen to her music because it's nice music to listen to. Then you put it on a playlist, and people around won't notice that it's about you know, gun violence or something.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is a nice song.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is a nice song. Huh?
Yeah, I played it a little for my wife, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, this is nice." I was like, "Are you listening to the words?" She's like, I mean, I can hear every now and then I can catch something, but NoName goes so quickly through her verses, man. She's just like this rapid fire pace, but her voice is so, I don't want to say delicate necessarily, but you know, she's not like pounding with emotion as she's laying out these devastating lines. She's just with the music and going quickly. And so, yeah, if you're not paying attention, it does sound nice and pretty. And oh, this is happy music. No, it's not happy music.
That's one thing I've kind of noticed with a lot of artists, a lot of female artists versus male artists. And I think it's just what the expectations of how women are supposed to act versus how men are supposed to act, and a lot of like these female rappers, they don't sound like they don't get as angry to talking about these things as the men do. I think they're kind of expected to just like. Sorry, my point just left my mind.
Yeah, I can't comment.
I feel like she just has to kind of talk about, like, I feel like a lot of these rappers and stuff, except, you know, I feel like, you know, Lil Sims and stuff have a more aggressive delivery, but a lot of female rappers like her and Lauryn Hill and MIA and like all these people who are talking about social issues, they're not getting super angry. They're not getting loud. They're, you know.
Lauryn Hill gets a little fired up. That miseducation.
Yeah, she does, but it's not like listening to like DMX or something like about you know, it's
I had the same complaint about Kanye though, honestly, in College Dropout. I was
it might just also be a Chicago thing, because like even like Chance the Rapper, when he's talking about things like these you know, police, gun violence, poverty, whatever. And it's like he's not getting angry, you know, he's pretty calm, and you know, he kind of gets sad.
Yeah.
And so I feel like Kanye's is, except for Yeezus.
Yeezus is nice and loud. Pretty, yeah. But College Dropout I was kind of disappointed with initially because I felt the same thing that you're saying now of you're talking about these things, not on all the tracks, but in some of these songs, you're talking about these issues, and you're not even like raising your voice. Like you should be furious about this, not just kind of passively describing it. So I wonder where that comes from. I wonder if it's artistic intention. I wonder if it's a record label pushing back. You know, there's all these elements that feed into the creation of music. Earlier when you were talking about Ka, and then just NoName, and you know, there's always that balance as an artist of, okay, I can either make something that I care about with intensity, or I can make something that I think will sell. And there's always that balance, you know, of I can make an album that I think is the best thing I've ever made and nobody likes it, or I can, you know, pay my mortgage for the next 2 years or something like that. Like you got to find that balance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do feel like it might just be like attitude of. I really feel like a lot of this, like I said, like Chicago music. A lot of these artists and when Kanye was more connected to Chicago when he's making like College Dropout and stuff. It's like I wouldn't call most music from the last 10 years like Chicago music.
Sure,
it's Kanye music, you know. But like, you know, you have like Lupe Fiasco and like all these artists from Chicago. They don't get super fired up about these things, but then just, you know, a 3-4 hour drive east, you have like Detroit, and I think compared to Chicago, there's no hope in Detroit.
Yeah, right.
There's no like beauty, like not there's none, but it's like a lot harder to find. There's a lot more like darkness, you know. And a lot of the artists you hear from that area are angry, and you know, you have like Eminem, he's angry, he's pissed off, and you'll get to Danny Brown, but he gets pretty impassioned and emotional, like talking about all these issues, and I just a lot of it's just like where they're from. I feel like, and even like Gary, you've like heard Freddie Gibbs,
Yeah.
where he's pretty. He talks, he talks about crime and he gets angry and he gets, but then there's moments like Harold's when he's just talking about food that he likes and stuff like that. But there's Gary and Chicago are connected. There is no break in like city between them. There's no fields.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But they're still like they're so different still. It's like you literally to get to Chicago, at least from where I am, driving like, northeast towards Chicago, you drive like half an hour through the worst areas you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
To get to Chicago, full of burnt out buildings and it's I don't know. You being in that area, you can imagine how that would affect your like psyche.
Yeah.
Whereas like Chicago, not to say that it's there's plenty of like bad areas in Chicago, and it's there's plenty of hopeless like sad like places that are hard to live in and scary, but it's like it's you're not so far from like you can get in the train and go downtown and go do something fun.
Right.
Yeah, Gary, Detroit, like places like that. There's like nothing like that really.
Yeah.
Like
you're stuck.
Yeah.
You're trapped. Yeah.
And it's the kind of the sense you get from listening to the music from those areas.
Yeah, and I wonder.
Where Chicago, like, yeah.
With
NoName finds those moments where she's happy,
yeah,
she's having fun with her family, and then like it comes back down to.
It's like the two layers. Like you can be happy, but there's that ugly side is still persists regardless.
Yeah, it's always there, and you can't ignore it.
Yeah, and I wonder, it's kind of almost getting philosophical in the sense of, like, if you are dealing with these types of environments and high murder rates and stuff like that, and then you're dealing with this idea of, okay, I have to vocalize this, I have to make a message in my music and have that present in the music. But then, like, if you spend your whole life or so much of your life focusing on a topic like that, it's gonna just drag you down. So then you could try and balance with some sort of something light, something enjoyable, something pleasant. I wonder if that was kind of the driver. Or, it could just be as simple as, I like these beats. Play these beats.
Right.
I don't know. I should have looked up more interviews. Does she have a lot of interviews and stuff on YouTube where she talks about her music?
I can't say I've really looked into it. I've just kind of seen them when they come up. Like, I don't think she does a lot of stuff like where she talks about her music. Now, like, I think now she's like doing more like interviews and stuff, but she's talking about her activism in her book club and her bookstore and stuff like that more.
Yeah.
She's just more focused on that. Really, it's just like I don't think it's a money grab or anything. I think she's still gonna make a good album whenever she gets to it. But I do think it's to bring attention to her other ventures.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I was saying before, man, you got to pay the bills somehow. So if you can pay the bills making music, go for it. I mean, there's no shame. It's not like, oh, because you're not a full-time musician, now it's somehow, oh, you can't make money off of music. No, fuck that. Like, I'm going to make music. If I make money off it, great. And then I'm going to keep doing what I want to do anyway.
I really don't think there's a problem with that as long as it's good.
Right. Exactly. That's the only thing that matters.
But I do drafting. And no one expects me to be passionate about it.
Yeah, right.
I do it because I get a bill every I get a paycheck every 2 weeks. I don't hate it, but I wouldn't be doing it if I could do whatever I wanted.
Right. Yeah. There's a band. One of the bands I really like is called Tool, and the lead singer for that. Tool. Yeah, Maynard. He's got other music projects that he's involved with, and he does his winemaking business and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I always crack up when I listen to Tool fans complain about Maynard doing all these side things. And it's like, no. Tool is his side thing. Like the wine and Pussifer are his main gigs. You don't understand. You're the side bitch, not the other stuff.
I want to say Les Claypool is kind of in the same place lately. I think he does you're a Primus fan?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I love Primus, but no, he's he goes on tour every now and then with Primus, but I think he's also focused. He does like wine, and I think he's been writing books, and I think that's kind of been more of his focus
and
past decade or so.
It's kind of sad to me when I hear people who declare themselves as fans of somebody and then get all pissed off when the person they're a fan of decides to keep exploring creative spaces rather than going, oh, cool, he's going to try out something else. He's going to try this and that. I mean, I can understand the frustration. Like a group I really like is System of a Down, and they broke up. And they all kind of went on to make their own little solo projects that to me sounded like lesser versions of System of a Down. Like stop making, that frustrated me. I wanted them to just go back and work together. But, you know, Trent Reznor is another artist I really like, and he's been doing scores for movies, and he's been working with other artists, and he's made incredible music because of it. And I think when you're a fan of an artist, like, yeah, not everything they're going to make is necessarily something you're going to enjoy, but this idea of I'm a fan of yours, therefore you must do what I want you to do. That's not how it works at all.
Yeah, and I like it when, like, as long as it's not from a place of cynicism, because there are artists that I like where I feel like they're maybe getting kind of, what's the word? They're getting like jaded, or like they just don't want to do the music anymore.
Yeah.
But they're like, I'm gonna go do this other thing because it's gonna keep making me money, and I might not have to work as hard or think as hard about it. You know? Where, like, I guess, you know, you have like the Black Eyed Peas, where I don't know if you've ever heard their really old music.
No.
They made like great like conscious rap in like the 90s, and then they went into this pop thing. And like Will.I.Am is an incredible producer, and he could be making like incredible music, but he doesn't. He just stopped caring, and he's like, I could do this thing, like stop doing what we're doing and go make more money, and do, you know, Black Eyed Peas and Fergie instead. And that's what he did, and it made him a ton of money, I'm sure. So, you know, all power to him for if he wants to do that. But there was a story, or Tyler the Creator tweeted several years ago. He's pissed off. Will.I.Am got into it with him, and he told Will.I.Am, and he's like, "I'm never gonna sell out." And like Will.I.Am is like, "Oh, you will." He's like, everyone does. He's like, "Fuck you, Will.I.Am. I'm never gonna sell out. You'll see." And you know what? He never did.
Well, so far. We don't know. He might. You know, we don't know.
But no, it's just sad. It's like seeing some of the potential of someone. Like if Will.I.Am would have not, like, would have continued doing something he's passionate about rather than going for the money, I really wonder what would have happened.
Yeah.
There's actually a few Black Eyed Peas tracks where you're listening to like the beat and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, they're like album cuts. They're not like their big songs, but there's and I'm just like, man, I don't mind, like I said, I don't mind artists going and doing other things as long as it's like I can't tell. It's like you're doing this just because it's a better, you know, a better way to make money.
That's kind of my view on the whole just like pop scene in general. I've never gotten into pop. I don't really care for it. I mean, I get that it's catchy and all this other stuff, but when I hear about how, you know, what was it, Rihanna and Britney Spears, that not the artists, but the groups that manage them were arguing over who gets to buy the song from the person who already made it, so that Britney or Rihanna could have. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, this doesn't even feel like music to me. It's strictly entertainment, and people want to be entertained. So okay, I get that, but yeah, I'm not into that. Now, from the creator side, I mean that's tough, because if someone says, "Hey, we're just going to give you a pile of money to do something that you don't really care about," it's hard to say no to. It's hard to say no to, just because it's like, oh, you mean I can just get paid a lot of money and do jack shit? Yeah. Oh, I think a lot of people would say yes to that.
I mean, it's the same. I feel stupid not remembering one of the greatest directors of all time. The Godfather.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Damn it.
What's his name?
It's not Scorsese. It's
no, it's not Scorsese. No. I almost said yes, but no,
it's not him. It's the other guy. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, he had a saying. It was like one for me, like one for them and one for me.
Yeah.
Where he would do some big movie, like he would give it a pile of money to make something. Not that it would be bad. It's like he was a great director and he'd do his best with the material, but he would take that, and then he would use the connections and money or whatever he got from doing that, like studio movie, to fund his own projects.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of a good way to look at it if you're someone that is in the, like the music business, and it's also like, and you saying giving Hannah a pile of money makes something you don't want to make. It just reminds me of Dune and how much of a disaster that was.
Is that the most
Giving
recent one?
no, the old
Oh.
one.
Oh.
Giving David Lynch, a guy who makes creepy little low budget horror movies, millions of dollars to make like a sci-fi epic. That was never going to work out. I don't care how good of a director he is. I don't know whose idea that was, but I'm sure he was like, "I'll take your millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
why not?
I'll make something weird." And nobody.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like I don't blame him for that. I don't fault him for it.
No.
I feel like most people would, and that was the studio's fault. That wasn't his fault.
Yeah. Well, and I think movies are probably a lot different. With music, man, I can totally see a lot of pressure from the record company itself saying, "Hey, no, you need to make music like this because this is what's going to chart and this is what's going to sell and it's going to get you all your mentions online and all of that shit." Like that's what they care about. They care about numbers. So I can
Right.
really see a push in that direction from somebody who's purely trying to make money. And then if you're an artist that's trying to do something that's even remotely different, then yeah, that's hard to overcome. And so maybe they just overcome it by, look, just shut up, make this music, and we'll pay you a lot of money. Okay, fine.
I could definitely see that. Why that'd make you jaded and
Yeah, because now it's a two front, right? It's the front of you're trying to fight the record company to make what you want to make, and if you stop fighting, they'll pay you a lot of money. You know, that really puts it onto like a moral pedestal, more or less, or maybe not necessarily moral, but like your principles, like where your principles actually stand. How much are you willing to fight against money and influence like that just to make what you want to make? I don't know. That's got to be tough. And then, you know, like with NoName, it seems like with her, and I don't know anything about her, so my talking about her is really dumb, honestly. But
I feel like I do. I would want to say I feel like Telefone paints a pretty good picture of who she is. And
what's cool about her is I feel like she somehow like snuck in through like a little crack in the system where, okay,
right.
I'll make some pretty happy music for you, and I'm gonna just fill it with these really heavy, deep topics. But that's completely an assumption on my part. Like I have no idea how much support she had from the record company that she was working with, but that's the
I'm
impression
not
I
even
get.
sure. I feel like I should know this, but I'm not even sure if she was like necessarily part of a record company because there was that whole. I guess you didn't. I was you. Yeah. You haven't really listened to any of those other early like 2010 2015 era like Chicago artists. Their big thing was being independent.
Oh, okay.
Chance the Rapper was kind of the head of that, and then you also had behind him you had like NoName and you had Vic Mensa, and you had like who else was in there? Alex Wiley.
Yeah.
You had all these rappers from Chicago who kind of formed a collective and supported each other and used their connections to help each other, and none of them were signed.
Oh,
so
that's
as
cool.
far as I know, she wasn't signed to a major label or anything.
Oh, okay. Cool. So then,
So I think it was full independent, and then from her friends sharing it and supporting it and everything, I think that's what kind of got her
yeah.
attention.
So then that makes me wonder even more about the music because if she was independent, then she did have the freedom. And so it seems like it's a lot more intentional, which is even more interesting to me. Like it'd be one hand, I feel like it's easier to understand the music being paired with lyrics like she's using if it was somehow forced on her, but to intentionally make it like light and delicate and pretty. Now I'm even more curious about the artistic intention and the design behind that.
Yeah. But once again, I kind of feel like that's the impression that you get from a lot of people I know from that area. Like I said, and even like from her, is you look at her and you hear her talk, and she seems very sweet and everything, and I'm sure she is very sweet, but but like you know, there's all this other stuff that needs to be talked about. There's all this other stuff that's just important, and and I get eventually, I'm sure you'll get to Acid Rap by Chance the Rapper. It's probably been suggested to you at some point.
Yeah.
But that's kind of similar. It's a little more direct with its messaging. Where I think there's like a there's just this is kind of an attitude of a lot of the people
Okay.
from that city. I kind of feel, and then there's her. It's kind of interesting to think like if she'd have a label to worry about, but she's still so worried about like talking about these things. And I really think that was literally just her worried about what people will think. Like these people, like if she posts on SoundCloud or whatever, like what are people going to take from this? Are they not going to listen to it if I say these things? And then I think when she did Telefone is when she's just like, fuck it, I'm going to talk about these things, and people are going to like it or they're not going to like it, and let's just see how it goes. And it obviously worked out.
Yeah. That's a scary thing, man. I can't imagine trying to make music. Every now and then I'll get messages on Twitter or something like that from people who are like, hey, man, will you be willing to listen to my stuff and check it out? And I do. And I always try and tell them because, you know, for the most part, the music still, I feel like still needs some refinement. You know, there's still ways to improve it and stuff like that. What's been cool is so far, everybody that I listened to just in private, these people that are on their own, it's like you've got something here. You definitely have something. It just needs a little bit more refinement. But I always tell them, dude, it takes a lot of balls to share your music with somebody and then wait for a response and hear it, because I can't imagine the amount of time, effort, soul searching, reiterations, rewrites, scraps, like all the stuff that goes into making a song and then putting it out there just for people to go, well, this sucks. Like, that would be devastating. Devastating.
Yeah. I'd like to make music or do something, you know. I've kind of thought about, you know, making miniatures.
Oh, sure.
In architecture school, so I always liked that part where we made like the little houses and stuff. But I'm just like, I'm terrified of it's so scary to put something out there.
It is. And
you're putting a piece of yourself out there and like people get to like look at that and judge it. And then it's like, well, maybe that you don't necessarily think people aren't going to like it, but what if they don't?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and the internet is just so brutal and jaded now.
Yeah.
Like, people will spend about 4 seconds trying out something new and then just shit on it.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's so awful.
And there's some people, you could literally like take like take an album like To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah.
Or even go way back, like take like Abbey Road or something. It's like albums that it's like, you know, people can have opinions, and I'm sure someone can make compelling arguments for why those albums are, you know, not as good as people say they are or something. But there are people who will listen to that and then decide this is shit, this is off. Yeah. And they'll put that in the internet. And there are some people, maybe someone who would be a great artist or who is a great artist, who sees that and can't help but take it personally. And because of assholes on the internet, we don't get to hear more from them or don't get to hear like the genuine art they want to make because they're afraid of these assholes who are going to have a negative opinion no matter what, you know?
Yeah. And it's,
you can make anything, and then there's some goblin who lives in his basement is going to go online and shit on it. And it doesn't matter, you know, if you're some dude with 300 listeners on SoundCloud or if you're Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Someone is going to find issue.
Well, I remember when I was watching, there was some interviews with Kanye West during the week I was spending with Dark Twisted Fantasy, and it was Kanye West was on some radio show, and Charlemagne the God was there sitting right next to him, and this and that. And for whatever reason, I don't know anything about Charlemagne the God at all, but he just looked all pissed off. And he's sitting there, and he said something about how, when Yeezus came out, I thought that shit was whack. Like, I didn't like it at all, and I was a Kanye fan. And Kanye's like right there, and he's like glaring at him saying, Yeezus was shit. It was shit. And Kanye just kind of puts on this smile like, okay, yeah, that's great. That's great. You know, because what else are you supposed to do? Especially when you're on a radio station. Like, it seemed like a trap. Like he was just trying to
wanted him.
Yeah.
He knows who Kanye is. He wanted Kanye to get pissed off so he could put a clip on YouTube and get 5 million views, you know?
Yeah. And that's just...
And then you go on TMZ, Kanye blows up on Charlemagne.
Right.
But they don't mention the part, Charlemagne was being an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kanye blew up on him.
I mean, that was definitely the impression I got there.
It sounds like, I haven't seen this clip, but it sounds like Kanye probably knew what he was trying to do.
I definitely got that impression, but it's just the weirdest thing about the internet, and it's kind of a double-edged sword where on one hand, you can get your stuff out there and find an audience without having to go through publishers, distributors, radio state. Like there's way less gatekeeping happening now. You can just get out there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now you're exposed to everyone and they can just crap all over it.
Yeah, it's just, but no, I guess I kind of get where NoName was coming from in that way.
Yeah.
Because, you listen to Telefone, you see how successful it is in retrospect, and you're like, why would anyone think that this wouldn't like work out, And it has so many fans, and it's done so well for her. But then, you think once again, it's the internet.
Yeah. Well, then
Someone's
too.
gonna be a dick, and it's easier if you make bubbly, happy music.
Yeah.
Then if someone just writes it off for that reason, then it's easier to just be like, oh, well, they don't like that kind of music, so they, I can ignore their opinion. Versus actually putting your heart out there and what you believe, and someone like criticizing that.
Yeah.
That's gonna
Right.
hurt a lot more,
Yeah, but then I also wonder now with with some of the statements she's made about her audience and stuff like that. I wonder if even though it was successful, if she's upset about it being successful, like things can be successful in different ways. And I wonder if she was hoping a different audience was going to really, really like it instead of the audience that she actually has. Because that's got to be a weird thing too, to create something, especially if you have a target in mind. Like I want to speak to these people, and then you make something and the people you're speaking to just don't hear it. They just don't care for it for whatever reason. But then somebody else who you didn't even intend it for picks up on it and loves it. I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, I feel like the worst / best example of that is like Rage Against the Machine. First of all, look at their name, Rage Against the Machine, right?
Yeah.
And then go read like their comment sections on YouTube, or anytime Tom Morello gets like political, and these people being like, I loved Rage Against the Machine, and now they're all political. Like, they've always been political.
They've been political, yeah.
Are you stupid?
Yeah.
Like, and I wonder what that feels like for people like them, who very, very intentionally and clearly and openly made like music for like revolutionaries and activists, and, and it's about like something deep, and it's about gun violence and police and totalitarianism and all this stuff,
and media too.
And media, and they have a lot to say, and they say a lot, and they say it very clearly, and it's not cryptic at all.
Not cryptic.
And there's a huge portion of their fan base that just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I wonder for like Tom Morello and for Zach De La Rocha, like, how does that feel? I wonder what they think of that. Like, I don't know. It must be frustrating.
Well, and Rage is an interesting. I think any kind of activist music in the industry that is very successful it exists in a weird place, because on one hand, great, you're getting your message out there, lots of people are hearing it, awesome. But it's also making tons of money, which is putting fuel into the machine that you're supposedly raging against. Right. So it's this weird, it's this weird duality of, I'm standing up against the machine by feeding it money.
And it's like, I do believe that people like Tom Morello like used his success well and used it for good purposes, and people like him and people like Henry Rollins and like, used their success well, but I can imagine that's something that probably kept them up at night, with just having to think like, how much money have I put into the pockets of executives and millionaires?
Well,
I'm trying, but it's like, in a way, if you want to reach these audiences and you want to have success and you want people to hear you, it's really hard to not feed into the machine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unless you just say, I'm going to put it out there for free. Which, that's cool, but then you're not going to make any money from it, and how are you going to survive as an artist, Yeah, I feel like
MIA is one of the, you'll get to her, I think people mention Esther Music a lot, but she's kind of a good example of someone who I think did her best to not feed the machine. Because, like, she's never released official merchandise. She's like, make your own merchandise.
Okay.
I don't really think she cares at all if people legally download her music. I think her song Paper Planes, I want to say it's in the Pineapple Express like trailer or something, and she was not super cool with that.
Oh,
and I think that she made them do, like, I think they had to donate like some money or something before she allowed them to do that, because like, if you're going to be making music commercially, you have to you need to do something like with money that you're making, you know.
Yeah.
But no, she's very against like the use of her music and her art for commercialism, and she doesn't want to use her fans for money. Yeah, I feel like she did her best to avoid that, but it's like there's only so much you can do.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I'll still go out and hear maybe Paper Planes on like the radio or something, and like this is, you know, once again it's another song that people don't understand. And when you'll get it, you know that song. I'm sure you've heard that song. Like
I may have. I don't know.
I'm fine like paper, getting high like planes. It's
Maybe.
got like
I don't know.
a sample from the Clash, and you know you might recognize if you hear it, but that's another song that has pretty deep meaning that people just didn't pick up on.
Yeah.
And they thought this sounds nice. I'll throw my playlist. You know. And then you go on NoName's like Spotify page, and her music is probably on Chill Study Music, and
Right.
and
Right.
and on the Sunday brunch playlist, or you know, and then you know, but no, I can imagine it's frustrating to just not have people engage with your music or your art in the way that you intend for them to. And I want to say, like, a lot of people were upset when she was expressing like frustrations with like her like all white crowds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like I get people being upset with that because it's like, you know, maybe like, oh, I gave you money and went to your show and stuff, and you know, if you have an audience and all that, but at the same, I don't think maybe she addressed it in the best way. I think she's angry, frustrated.
Yeah, sure.
It's like I get that, but like I said, I can imagine it's frustrating to not.
Yeah, I think if you're, in my opinion, you know, throughout my 0 minutes of being a musical artist, I think just created in general, if you're going to release something out into the public space, you have to go, okay, you got to do what you can to make it yours, and you know, make it as well as you can, obviously. But then when you release it, you let it go. Like, okay, that's it. It's now officially out of my hands. It now belongs to the public eye, and whatever they're going to do with it, they're going to do with it. Because I feel like with artists, you know, it's important to care about whatever it is that you're making. But if there is a line of, if you start to care too much, you start to choke it to death at the same time. And if you start to care too much, then you lash out against people who enjoy it in the wrong way, you know. And unfortunately, I mean, one of the things I think is great about art is that people can come into something, whatever it is, and have their own experience with it. And that's what makes art so magical. But there are instances where people feel like, no, it's this. This is what it is, and this is what it has to be, and you have to see it in this way. And it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. People have their own experiences. And so it's got to be, you know, it's got to be hard. There's a lot of layers, I feel like, that exist with somebody making something that has a message, and you're trying to reach a specific audience. And then if it lands a different way, you just got to go, well, okay, there you go. That's what it is.
And you know, she's not the only artist who's kind of expressed similar like issue. I'm sure you've heard of Vince Staples. People probably recommended him.
I know the name. I don't think I've heard any of his music.
Yeah. He says, like, there's a line on one of his songs, something like, all these white people cheer when I ask them where my N-word's at. You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Now that shit is very funny to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like, I mean, what is it like to be NoName? And, you know, maybe I don't necessarily think she should be like, white people shouldn't come to my shows or whatever. But if you're someone spreading her message and you're on stage and looking at this crowd of people that are singing along your lyrics with you, and you see all these white faces saying the N-word.
Yeah, right. Right.
What are you going to like?
Yeah.
Should she...
Oh, man. Yeah.
I can imagine just being like, are you people not listening to me at all? You know?
It's got to be a surreal experience. Like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I try to like put myself in that specific scenario, and that's a weird one to me. I think that would make me kind of lose my mind a little bit too. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah. What is going on right now?
So I want to kind of segue because I do want to briefly talk. I did get to see her live. It was amazing.
I bet. I mean, because she used to do
Yeah.
like spoken word stuff, right? Like that was what
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
into before.
You kind of get that. You
Yeah.
kinda, like hearing her delivery.
Absolutely.
Very spoken word. It's very poetic in a way that's like, it's not like the same flows that you hear all the time.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's kind of
right.
an interesting flow, and sometimes she'll kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, almost like trip over her words and kind of like,
It's very cascading. It just keeps going and going
Yeah.
and going. Yeah.
And it can like be, I feel like it's pretty monotone and.
Yeah. Well, so
Yeah.
here we're at 51
That's
minutes.
kinda-
So do your
Yep.
segue, and we'll wrap up with your segue here that you want to hit.
Okay, yeah. So when I was in college, and pretty shortly after Telefone had dropped, and I'd been listening to it a lot, a city near me, Bloomington, was having a free music festival, and NoName was the headliner. And I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
we have to go to this.
Hell
And
yeah.
all my friends were like, I don't know who that is. And I was like, okay, well, you know the song of Acid Rap. She's on that one song. So like, oh, I know who that is. And I got a couple of them to listen to it. I don't think it really clicked with a lot of my friends at the time. So we all made the trip down there, and we were just outside and blazing Midwest dry, fucking 90-degree heat, whatever, all day, sweaty and disgusting. And I think another band we saw was Sales, who I think they have a couple popular songs now on like TikTok, but
Okay.
they were pretty good. But we just literally went to the barrier, held on. We're like, we are not moving. We're gonna wait for NoName so we can be right at the front. And then her performance came, and it got dark, and literally, I could have like reached out and touched her. So we were that close.
Nice.
And she had a full band, no backing track.
Cool. Very cool.
And she performed, I think, the whole album. She's performed the whole album. She had, like a keyboardist, and I think there was a guy on like a trumpet and a guy on the drums. And
Yeah.
guitar, bass. It was amazing.
That sounds awesome.
And I was blown away. Like everyone I was with, it completely sold them, and they were like so into it. And I just want to say, like, just having that experience and being able to, like, you could kind of feel like the passion, like you could see it on her face. You could tell she believes what she's saying, and she's, there's so many people where, so many live performances you can see where you can tell they don't.
Yeah, they phone it in.
Yeah, they're just there to, get a paycheck, whatever. Whether that means they don't care about the music, performance, whatever. But I think she just seems so happy to be like, I found success in what I love, and she put everything into it. And like for someone like with the music that she makes, to have this crowd of people, and like almost everyone like knew pretty much all the words to the music.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been out for that long by then. And because of that, I really hope that she doesn't actually stop performing and stuff like that, because it was incredible. But man, ever since then, like she is one of my favorite artists. I'm always going to follow her. And in times when she might have said some controversial things, I'm like, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna see where she goes, because she's someone who, like, I could very well see being like, people talking about her far in the future and be like, oh, this is this person who made this big difference, or maybe a politician, activist. Did you know that she used to make music?
Yeah, right?
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm seeing this person, I'm like, she's going to be bigger than, I kind of get this feeling she's going to be bigger than this. Like, she's going to become greater than, like, than she appears to be,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's absolutely possible. Absolutely possible.
Yeah.
I mean, this could just be a stepping stone for, what you're saying, something further up, which would be cool, because that's what I want. Like, you want somebody who cares and has passion and has that drive to try and fix the problem, rather than just, well, I'll be a politician and take bribes from lobbyists all my career, and then that's it.
Because I feel like there's a lot of these artists and people out there that have a message, maybe they're a message to spread, and maybe they're talking about poverty or black issues, LGBT issues, whatever, and they talk about them, but as far as I can tell, they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's
like you're talking about it and bringing attention to it's important.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing with the power that you have and the money and connections and everything? And she's someone who I do feel she's actually trying to make a difference with her position. And I kind of hope that more like people kind of, whether or not they stick with music, I want that to be more common in the industry,
Yeah, and that's a tough one too, man, because that's just a lot of time and effort, and effort. So
I mean, there's so many of these artists you see get super burnt out, because of that.
Yeah,
and maybe they stop making music, or they, or they're just angry, because they're so. You have like Talib Kweli, who he's a great rapper, and he has an important, he's very tapped in social issues. But all he does is sit on Instagram and Twitter and argue with people all day, constantly arguing with people that are, disagree with him. And I'm like, dude, you can unplug sometimes.
Yeah.
You're a human being.
Yeah.
I get that you're trying to spread a message, and but you're not helping the cause at all by arguing with trolls that are trying to make you angry.
Right. Yeah. If you're wrapped up in something like that, you're not changing anybody's mind. Like it's literally just a shit fest. They're just flinging poop across the internet at each other. Oh man. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I feel like I didn't talk about the music as much as we should.
Well, but that's okay. I mean, I feel like Telefone specifically is difficult to talk about because the music is so easy to digest, but then the lyrics are such a challenge. And so, like I was talking about on my additional thoughts video I felt like the more time I spent trying to disassemble the lyrics and the album to understand it better, the more I kind of ruined it. So I ended up just saying, you know what? This exists. This is what it is. I like it. It's very cool. It's very different. And I'm just going to enjoy it in that sense.
I kind of get the feeling that, like, with the album, you get, like, To Pimp a Butterfly or something.
Yeah.
You get the big picture, and you listen to it, and you can tell what he's talking about, and it merges very well with the music. Whereas, like, Telefone, it's almost like a stream of consciousness in a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this song will be about this, and then it'll kind of go down here, and then it'll come back up, and then of course you have songs like Casket Pretty that are very sad like the whole time. But then a lot of these other like bubbly, happier songs. Maybe, there's one about he's talking about a guy she likes, and then she sprinkles things in there. And to me, it's it's almost like someone's sitting on the train or something on the way home from work.
Yeah,
the
it's
sun's
like
going down. And maybe they're just writing.
Right, I was just going to say.
Thoughts going through their head,
Yeah, it's like somebody just writing in a notebook in real time in front of you. Just diddle it.
And it's very clever. It's not just like stream of consciousness in a way, which is like, it doesn't sound like someone dumping their thoughts out. But it's almost in a way where you're like hearing your own thoughts in your mind, and you're trying to kind of decipher your own feelings about something,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're trying to figure out, how do I feel about this? Whereas, a lot of artists you listen to, they kind of put it out like, this is how I feel, and this is what I think. And I feel like, in a way, NoName is, like, I'm not going to say that she doesn't know what she's talking about on these albums, but it's like, in a way, she's not going out of her way to clearly spell out how she's feeling, because maybe she doesn't exactly know how she's feeling, or what she's thinking,
It's got that weird state of being mentally tangled with other things. Like, these things are just all kind of... They're in a ball, and they're somewhat tangled up, and like you can kind of pull the string and get a little bit, but that just makes the knots tighter over here, and so it's like, well, this is tangled, and I'm just going to leave it tangled.
That's I think she's so interesting, because who else does that?
It's very
who does it successfully.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these artists I listen to, and especially a lot of '90s artists, honestly, a lot of alternative rock band stuff. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Maybe you know what you're talking about, but nobody else does, because you can't read your mind.
One of my favorite,
like I said,
one of my favorite songs is Stone Temple Pilots' "Plush."
Mm-hmm.
Great song, iconic grunge song. I have no idea what that song's about. If I read the lyrics, I am just like, how high are you right now? I have no idea what it's about.
That is 90% of Primus songs.
Yeah, right.
What the fuck are you talking about, Les Claypool? I don't think he knows.
Yeah.
Fucking Too Many Puppies? I don't know what that's about. Selling seasoned cheese? But No
Oh my
Name,
god.
and then you listen to them talk about like a lot of those artists I'm talking about. They'll talk about it and be like, "Oh, well, this song is actually about this." And I'm like, "Okay, well, you're the only one who got that." And no one, and it's not like I can say people are making art wrong because they're not. Because you can engage with it and you can enjoy it in other ways. But I'm like, if you have to sit there and explain exactly what it means, and nobody can take that from it except for you,
Yeah.
then it's like, what's the point in even saying what it's about?
Yeah. Right.
Whereas like No Name, I feel like she does a good way. Like if there's a good balance there where she's able to kind of keep you thinking about it, and you're not quite sure maybe what she's getting towards, but you get the feeling.
Yeah.
You kind of you can grasp something, but you can't totally
Right.
like
Right.
understand and like get it. And like I said, it's kind of like dealing with your own thoughts and your own
Yeah.
trying to work out something yourself. It feels almost like you're listening to the inside of.
Oh. I don't know if you're still there, but it locked up. Anyway, we're at an hour anyway, 101. So I don't know if Jordan's gonna be able to reconnect or not. But thank you, Jordan. If you can't hear me, thank you for coming on. That was fun. That was a good talk. And we'll wrap it up here, episode 15, Conversations with the Community.